it's going to be quite interesting, practical, hopefully. And resilience comes down to one thing, and that is timely, trusted, and actionable information reaching the people where they are. And so today's and this last session is intentionally hands-on, and hopefully we get a lot out of it, where we are bringing together operators, mobile network operators, humanitarian organizations, and climate-focused partners who are not only imagining solutions, but of course, they are actively deploying them, and often in some of the most challenging environments. But we know, as has been reiterated in the first session and across the sessions over this week, over the last couple of days, that technology alone is not enough. And the real power lies in partnerships, where governments, operators, NGOs, and members of the community themselves are involved. And this is what we want to achieve or demonstrate in this session, and to explore what's working, what's scalable, and what still needs to be unlocked to strengthen national resilience in a rapidly changing environment. And so we hopefully will witness that in some of the practical demonstrations, hear candid insights from practitioners, and reflect on how some of these tools can be integrated into national systems in ways that are sustainable, inclusive, and locally owned. And so to help us ground today's discussions in practical, scalable solutions, I would like to invite GSMA to share their insights, and they will be doing that virtually. And of course, that will be followed by a number of panelists whom I will now probably invite to join me on stage in the interest of time. So let me just ask, let me pull them up. Let me ask Mr. Akhenaton Laborde, who is the tech consultant for CTO, if he could join us on stage. Mr. Abraham Nasak, the director for the Vanuatu National Disaster Management Office, to also come on stage, and we can sit here together. Mr. Dixon Tebi, the Secretary General for the Vanuatu Red Cross Society, hopefully he's in the room, who will also be joining us on stage to share some insights in this session, and the Director for Geohazards, who will, of course, also share some of the perspectives and the experiences in Vanuatu in this panel. So to present from the GSMA on mobile early warning system, let me invite online Phil Dunglingson and Rachel Nunn. If you could cue them up on the screen, and let's hear their presentation. So hopefully they are online. All right. All right. So while we're waiting for the online participant to come on and present, let me just see if the Secretary General for Red Cross is in the room. Okay, yes, please come up, sir, and take a seat with us here on the panel. And I count it on? Yes, sir. Okay, let's check if our GSMA colleagues are on. I'm told they're online, but can't see them on the screen yet.
I don't think they.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear us?
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm trying to show the presentation. It should be in presenter mode now. demonstration today, but the theory of cell broadcast is very simple. So there are two components. We have the central cell broadcast entity, the CBE, which typically sits within the National Disaster Management Organization, where the cell broadcast alert is generated, and then that message is pushed electronically to the second component, which is the Cell Broadcast Center, or the CBC. And the CBC converts the geographic area that the NDMO wants to send the message to, so in this case it's the white circle, into a list of base stations within the radio access network, or the RAN, of each of the mobile operators. And if you and your device are within the coverage area, which is the white circle, then your device will receive the message because it's transmitted by the tower. So very simply, the blue mobile operator in this diagram, the one tower inside the white circle transmits the message, and the two blue towers outside do not. And typically, the cell broadcast message can be delivered in under 10 seconds. So it's a very powerful tool. However, cell broadcast is not a silver bullet. It's not the only early warning system that you should be focusing on. It must be seen as part of a broad multi-hazard early warning system and complementing the existing channels that are currently being used in the country, whether that's TV, radio, social media, websites, sirens along the coast, or electronic signage in more developed countries. So the power of cell broadcast is in using it in the right way at the right time, depending on what the emergency situation is and where in the cycle the message is going to be circulated to the population. So just a few of the benefits of cell broadcast. Typically, when countries are using mobile networks in the past, they've used bulk SMS, which is a powerful way to get messages out, but it's not as successful as cell broadcast, and it has some limitations. So with cell broadcast, this is a one-to-many communication channel. It's not one-to-one like SMS. So you don't need to have a list of devices and subscribers in order to send the message out. It's more like a TV, where you've got a single antenna just pushing the message out on a broadcast, and whoever picks up the signal will receive the message. As we saw in the diagram, it's geographically targeted. So you can send a cell broadcast message on a country basis. It could be a single island basis, or it could be down to an individual facility like a port or an airport. There are no privacy issues because the cell broadcast system does not use mobile numbers. The reach is very targeted, depending on the polygon area that's drawn in the CBE. And as I said on the last slide, it's a rapid distribution. So with SMS, if the network is congested, it could take hours, if not by the next day, to send out all the SMSs in some situations. With cell broadcast, the message should be delivered in under 10 seconds, regardless of the quantity of people receiving the message around the country. Cell broadcast is also a very different user experience. Your device will give off a very different tone than you're used to, and the phone will vibrate. And if you're using a smartphone, the message will appear on the screen and will not disappear until you've swiped and notified that you've read the message. The system is very secure, and because the cell broadcast technology uses the emergency channel, rather than the commercial capacity on the mobile networks, there is no congestion issue. And that's really important. If there's an incident, typically the first thing people will do is reach for their phone to call loved ones and friends and relatives. If they do that, then networks can get congested very quickly. But cell broadcast uses the emergency channel, so it bypasses that congestion, and the message can be delivered by government authority very quickly. So I'll now pass over to Rachel, who will just talk to you a little bit about the specific work that we're doing in the Pacific region.
Thank you, Phil. Can I just double check that everybody can hear me, please? For those that are in the room there in Vila, if you could just confirm that you can hear me. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So as Phil mentioned, we are part of a team of 3 at the moment, looking at cell broadcast-based early warning systems for the Pacific. The project Pacifica Tangomaki started officially last year in January. So this is just a slide that shows the project timeline from where we started to where we are now. We had the first pilot of the software in the Solomon Islands last April at the PETA AGM, the Pacific Islands Telecommunications Association AGM. And from there, we have since moved to various stages of implementation in 3 other countries in the region, so Cook Islands, Kiribati, and Samoa. From there, we held a 5-day regional multi-stakeholder capacity building and training workshop in Fiji. So this is where we brought together these first 4 countries, as well as development partners, UN agencies from around the region. We realized very quickly that this needs to be a very holistic and multifaceted approach to risk reduction. So we thought it best to to include the crop agencies as much as possible with this initiative. So we did have initial discussions with SPREP, the Secretariat of the Pacific Regional Environment Program, to get their endorsement on this initiative moving forward, and especially with the directors of the Pacific Met Council. So in Vanuatu, for example, the director for the Vanuatu Met and Geohazards Division level is very much aware of this. He's also the chair of the PMC. So it was at his PMC last year in Honiara that this paper and this initiative was endorsed formally by all the directors from the National Met Services throughout the Pacific. We have since moved into a formal memorandum of understanding with SPREP this year. We also hope to do the same moving forward with other crop agencies and as directed by the governments in the Pacific. Thank you, Phil. Next slide, please. So the next slide just gives a brief overview of the implementation status that we have for the 4 Pacific Island countries that we mentioned for 2025. So in terms of the Cook Islands, we are 97% complete, and they are very close to testing the system in their country to be able to do a test message with the population. The Solomon Islands is following close behind at 95%. Kiribati and Samoa are at 65 and 50% respectively, and we are continuing to work with these 4 countries this year to ensure that we can get them across the initial pilot test hopefully in the second quarter of this year. Thank you, Phil. Next slide, please. So in terms of cell broadcast early warning systems, and especially with the implementation, some of the things that we're noticing is that there are some key considerations that we really need to take into account. So this is the photo of the team in Kiribati last year in September. We did an official mission there hosted by the National Disaster Management Office and the OB. So some of the things that we need to obviously take into account are in terms of governance, who decides if mobile cell broadcast should be implemented in the country, where that would sit under what priority areas and so forth. In terms of operational considerations, there needs to be a clear alert to trigger, clear authority to trigger alerts. So for the most part, this would sit with the NDMOs in country, and I know Director Nazak is there as well on stage. So, we've also talked to him in person just a few weeks ago at the IOM MHU's workshop. So, it really depends on who you would like as decentralized agency for this, but it would also depend on the different acts and the frameworks that exist within the country as well. In terms of technical considerations, there are things like network coverage mapping, cell broadcast configuration, geofencing accuracy that would also need to be taken into account. Obviously, we would work very closely with mobile network operators and the National Disaster Management Offices or similar agencies, alerting agencies to define those areas. And I did notice, Luke, that when you introduced this session, you mentioned, the people on the ground and the end user considerations as well. And that's something, especially with my role in this, is that I'm supporting the end user considerations, especially for this project. So what we'd like to do is work with, the people that are using the technology, the everyday users, ensure that, the NDMOs, the Met services, the alerting authorities have standardized message templates, CAP compliant message templates that can be used, ensure that their agencies are ready 24/7. Obviously have a multi-channel dissemination to avoid redundancy. And I think this is something that Phil touched on at the start, that cell broadcast, should not be the only way to disseminate hazard information messages. In terms of financial considerations, and this is something we face a lot, is that who ends up paying for the system. So part of this project, Pacifica Tango Maki, what we're doing at the moment is we have partnered with Peter, as mentioned earlier, and a very small cell broadcast vendor based out of Australia, OmniTouch. So they are working with us to provide the software for this initiative moving forward, and up to the end of 2027 to ensure that we can sort of kickstart that process and get it going, and then identify sustainable funding mechanisms following the end of 2027. There are many as well, and I can send you a comprehensive list after this presentation, but I do know that we only have 10 minutes for this presentation, so apologies for rushing a little bit through this presentation. The last part that's here on the screen is the national test. So obviously there's quite a lot of things, there are quite a lot of things that need to be done before a national test is conducted. Is to consolidate as much as possible the 4 countries that were covered last year, so Cook Islands, Kiribati, Samoa, Solomon Islands, and we are working on identifying. We have identified 3 countries for implementation this year. And so the GSMA team, Phil, myself, and Dilip will be conducting in-country missions to these 3 countries, Nauru, Niue, and Tuvalu, to see if there is any interest from these 3 countries to be able to implement cell broadcast for risk reduction. There are other cell broadcast solutions that exist in the region, so French Polynesia, New Caledonia, Palau, and Tonga. Some of you may have heard of these as well. So these are usually from our experiences, have been multi-million-dollar solutions. So we're trying to see how we can sort of consolidate our group with the other solutions that exist in the market and bring them all together. And the last part are the larger regional countries. So Fiji, Papua New Guinea, and Vanuatu. So what we hope to do for these 3 countries is to conduct a cell broadcast readiness assessment, to just sort of see what the landscape is and how and if cell broadcast could be implemented in these countries, noting that they are the largest by far in the region and probably the most complex as well in terms of risk and coverage and population size as well. So just as a sort of wrap up, what we're hoping to do this year is to really bring this community of practitioners together to ensure sustainability of the ongoing work. And, again, I just like to reiterate that this is not limited to the GSMA, Peter, and OmniTouch collaboration. We'd like to include as many as possible in this. And, this is something that we can also discuss in other opportunities that we have listed here, in terms of the online knowledge hub, which is going to be a microsite on the PETA website, as well as another regional workshop in Q3 for this year. And last slide to link you. And that is the end of our presentation today. Thank you, Tomas, and our email addresses are listed there. We're happy to share the presentation following this, but also note that you have face-to-face panelists with you in the room there. So thank you very much.
Right to the podium, Anakiton.
So just now you would have heard, well, it wasn't loud enough. So we had all the phones. Hi. So just now I sent a notification which simulated, in fact, let me ask a question. If it is the sea level drops 3 meters under 5 minutes, what kind of disaster are we expecting? Anyone? Tsunami, right? So that notification that just went across all the phones, they probably wasn't loud enough. So all the phones got the notification, right? You could put me up on the screen. Oh, just now. Yeah, I just multiply. Extend, duplicate 1. I can't see it on this screen here. One. Huh? Yeah, but I'm not seeing it here on the screen. I can't control, yeah. Huh? Okay, so basically, what it is we simulated was early warning through our mobile application, which is the government e-services application, right? And in the application, we have a tab which is national preparedness. So it's actually tracking all the different metrics. And in the application, you're going to see different things as wind gusts, sea level, all these different things. And as those metrics reach their threshold, it will actually send a notification. Now, what we're actually doing is through the interface is giving you information of where you could go for a shelter. Yeah, where you could go for a shelter. Good. Come on. Yeah. Right. So you got it. Let's minimize. Okay. So, all right. So I better to just show it from here. I know you can't see, but I'm just gonna explain it. Right. So we have the check. Right. So we have the application, and when you go into the application, you're going to have the National Preparedness tab. And when you go into the tab, you're going to see shelters and you're going to see essentials. Shelters are basically going to show you markers. It's actually going to show you where it is I'm standing. And the markers, which are green, are basically markers that saying these shelters are, once it reaches the capacity of over 90, it's available. If it's over 90, it's red. Come on, guys. Right? Right, good. No. Okay, good. All right. So, thank you. So, in the application, you have the National Preparedness tab. When you go into the tab, you're going to have shelters, you're going to have essentials. When you go into the shelters, you're going to see exactly where we're standing, right? It's not on the application, it's on the laptop, so it won't actually show it your GPS location. So let's say your marker is right there. When it is you go to, right. So if it is, I click the green shelter is going to show 0 out of 300. So that's an empty shelter. If you go to the red one, that's basically full to capacity. So it's using a metric. If it's over 90%, it will turn red. If it's below 90%, it's going to be green. Now, how would this work? Is basically, let's say you're in Panjo, and the other marker, which is 20 to 50, which is up there, let's say it's down here. So it's basically telling you it have 20 more people before the shelter is filled. You automatically know, run into that shelter, which might be 15, 20 minutes drive. It wouldn't make sense going to that shelter. You're actually going to go to the one that's further, right? So this is basically what the platform will actually show you. Down to the bottom here, you have let me see if you're able to see it. Right, okay. So early on when it is, I send the notification. You're seeing wind speed, wind degree, wind gust, sea level, humidity, pressure. It may have the individuals who are very paranoid who will always be checking to see what is the level of different metrics, but the application itself is actually doing it for you. So, like I said, if it is the sea level, it's at 1011, and after a 5-minute period, it just dropped. It is actually going to give you a warning that a potential tsunami is coming. If it's a cyclone, you're checking humidity, pressure, and wind gusts. So the application is actually giving you all these metrics. So whether it is we couple it with the National Disaster Agency, where they would send out the notification, you are actually getting it firsthand in the application, right? The other thing is the essentials, right? So what the essentials is basically showing, in the case of a disaster, water, plyboard, gas, this map is actually showing you all the locations that these items will be available. So if it is, you go up to the one that has the water, this will be a supermarket. Now, being a national government platform, all these agencies will have APIs that will just to show for water or plyboard, they will have an API which will be taking stock. So if it goes low, the government will automatically know, and through the application will know that this location is low on stock, this location is low on medical supplies. So I could come here, and it's going to show you all the different essentials. So you have medical supplies. So this one will tell you what medical supplies. So this is just an overall. So you're going to see all this information coming through the application. So coupled with what GSMA is doing, this is just an extension of it, where it is you're able to actually see where you could go, what it is you could access, right, through the platform. Yeah?
Thanks very much for that demonstration. Yeah, it took a bit of time, but I think it was valuable to see that in practice. So we'll now hear perspectives from the rest of the panel, and we'll begin with Director Nasak of the Vanuatu National Disaster Management Office.
Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished guests, panelists, all protocols observed. First and foremost, the National Disaster Management Office, when we were established and the legislation was updated in 2019, we don't create disasters, but we do coordinate and facilitate responses to disasters and emergencies based on the 3 scenarios of best case, likely case, and worst case. And we do that through devolution of functions and responsibilities to our partners and stakeholders, and also the national cluster system. Because our response is based on the needs of the affected population, we do require that our partners and stakeholders have the information available. And we do encourage them and support them in implementing the systems. So for example, the Ministry of Education will have the system that looks after the schools, information, students, buildings, and so on. The Department of Water will have their own information around water resources and water stress information, and the information around early warning for meteorology, hydrometeorology will be with the Department of Meteorology and Geohazards Department, whose director is seated on my left, and he will talk more about that, as well as other departments for Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, and so on. They keep the information regarding their service delivery, and they make that information available to NDMO. The early warning agencies, such as the Vanuatu Meteorology and Geohazards Department, once they issue the official warning or alerts, then NDMO facilitates that through our structure, which is available at the provincial level and as well as sub-provincial level, right down to the community level, making use of our community leaders who are trained up in how we respond to disaster in the preparedness phase, response, and recovery phase. So all of those information that the population needs, we will inform the different stakeholders and tell them that these are the types of information that our affected population require. And once we inform them, those agencies are responsible for making sure that that information is available to the public. And this is where it is one of the government's objectives that timely, relevant, and accurate information is provided to the public as quickly as possible, so that the public and everyone has an opportunity to adjust their routine and take preparation measures to enable them to mitigate the effects of the onset of a disaster or emergency. While this is being done through the strengthening of the main coordination response structure, there is also work that's being done through our other stakeholders that goes directly to the public. And this is something that the UN OCHA, the Pacific Office, is helping NDMO with, and this is to do with anticipatory action. And this is where support is provided to the public that allows them to be able to receive relief supplies or support during the onset of an event, and allows them to better prepare for an oncoming, for example, cyclone. So while we do work to strengthen the policy as well as the mechanism and help our colleague agencies in providing this data to us as well as to the public, we also look at resourcing the population during the onset as well as facilitate response during a disaster response after the impact of the disaster. I think that's as much as I can say now. Thank you.
Thank you. And it'll be useful to hear how Vanuatu, through your office in the Geohazards Office or Meteorology, is integrating new early warning technologies or harnessing it to communicate to the public.
So thank you, moderator. I'll go straight to the point. Our mandate is to make sure everyone gets an alert or warning in terms of meteorological hazard or a geohazard hazard. And in order to do that, there's two processes. One is the analysis part, and the second process is the dissemination part, And both of them are critical in providing timely warnings. So in order to do the analysis, you need to get real-time information. And we do have numerical weather prediction models. You can have all models, but they're just models. You need to verify that on ground. You need to have ground truth data to make sure what you provide, as earlier mentioned, it has to be accurate, meaningful, so that people can get, act accordingly to these warnings. So our challenge in both getting in data and also putting out our products and to address early warning or to it's some of the challenges are beyond our capabilities. So we don't own the telecommunication companies. They are businesses. They have their priorities. And whenever we have a warning to put out to the public, the greatest challenge is it becomes a second priority. If they have a task or a scheduled task to come out, for example, an advert, or you get text messages on, be it a message from the police force or a company, if that is scheduled for a particular time and we have a warning, we issue a warning on that particular time, we'll still get a delay because they have priorities. And we've experienced that some of our warnings come out after 30 minutes or 1 hour. So we have tried to find other ways. While this is something I'm not trying to, say, I don't know what's the word. I'm not trying to say that they're not doing the bad, but I think it's something beyond my responsibility, which needs to be more discussion on that one. we are doing something now around the space of common alert protocol, and since our telecommunication companies are limited to the coverage how far they go in terms of the coverage, we looking at common alert protocol, and so far we've been being consistent in putting out messages through this platform, and hopefully next month Google is going to pick that up, and that's something good which we're looking forward to. It's not limited to the telecommunication coverage boundaries. So regardless whether you have an internet, whether you're outside of coverage, you will still get a text message. So in short, you'll be one or two boundary will be geofenced. So whenever you cross that geofence boundary, if there's a warning in place, you would have that pop up on your phone. So far, that's where we are at, and we also have app. I know most of us have smartphones, and one of those capabilities which we have on our app is whenever there's a notification, you will get that on your phone. And if you do not have that app yet, you can download that on either Apple Store or Play Store, or I don't know what's the word for Apple. So you can download that app, and it's handy, especially for smartphones. Again, smartphones are limited to your area of coverage, but then hopefully next month the Google should pick that up, and regardless of whether you're in service or you have internet, you'll still get a message. So that's how far we've gone in terms of early warning.
Well, thank you very much. That's very insightful, and thanks for sharing that experience. Turning to the Red Cross Secretary General, Red Cross has deep reach into the communities across Vanuatu. From your experience, what are the most effective community-based approaches that ensures early warning messages are not only received, but acted upon?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I think first of all, let me explain a bit about Red Cross, Vanuatu Red Cross. Vanuatu Red Cross is itself a statutory body. It has its own act that was passed in Parliament back in 1982. It is a humanitarian emergency responder, and Vanuatu Red Cross is a member of the International Red Cross Movement. So we work closely also with our regional office in Fiji and also in Geneva. And also as an auxiliary to the public authorities, we work very closely with the government in times of disaster with the NDMO. And we have a parallel structure down to the province where we have Red Cross branches in each of the 6 provinces. So we have the headquarters here in Port Vila, and each branch has each province has a Red Cross branch office with a full-time staff. We also have pre-positioned stock, 2 warehouses, one in Port Vila, one in Santo, and containers in all the other provinces ready for any emergency response. On the ground, we also have volunteers. Currently, we have about 600 active volunteers throughout the country. And this is one of our strengths in terms of our network. So in terms of early warning, whenever we get a notice from the Meteo or the NDMO about an imminent disaster, we inform our branch contacts on the ground, our branch officers, who then distribute the information to our volunteers in the various communities, and who also use the community network to try to spread the messages around and get people to get ready for the impending disaster. So, the challenge for our network is mainly when we don't have a good internet signals. That can be a challenge because in times of cyclones, sometimes signals do get very weak, and so communication can be an issue for us. But otherwise, our volunteers are well trained, trained for disaster response, emergency response, with first aid skills and other relevant skills, logistics. So they're all ready to participate in any response that we. During the disaster, when we get a notice of disaster coming, we inform our regional office also, and we monitor very closely. Also preparing our emergency plan of action, getting that ready soon after the disaster, trying to complete the emergency plan of action because we have a facility as a member of the Federation who can contribute contribute finance to support our operations on the ground. So we don't really, that is a facility, an advantage Red Cross has, a facility to support, financial support to roll out its operation immediately after the disaster. So I think this is one of the, a lot of the time people see Red Cross moving fast when there's disaster. It's simply because of that facility. Outside disaster time, we are not funded by the government. We struggle to keep ourselves in existence. But our strength is mainly our volunteers, the mass volunteers we have well registered. We have a proper registration for all. And also all our volunteers are insured for any operations. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Tevi. We have a bit of time for questions, so I don't know if you have any quick burning questions from the audience, from those who are hearing. I know GSMA is still online. We have one question from Secretary General, so maybe we allow 2 or 3 questions. If you can get the mic to SG Bernadette. We have one mic here.
Great, thank you very much. I was just wondering whether there was a vibrant amateur radio community in the past. Amateur radio was the sort of go-to for emergency response, notifying people. They provided a tremendous service. Is there such a community here? Amateur radio, the ham operators, the
Broadcast.
It's not a radio station.
So yes, we do have radio stations. I don't know if anyone from VPTC around. When I do broadcasting and television corporation. So is that your question?
No, in the Caribbean, I'm giving you the Caribbean experience. We have amateur radio operators. They have their own mast and they do short range broadcasts, and this has been an essential communication tool for disaster operations, and they provide a tremendous service. I was just wondering if there was such a community here in the Pacific.
I don't know.
Shortwave radio.
Shortwave, yeah. But we do have HF radios. So for the Med service, we have stations from north to south, and we have this backup system that sits in the observation stations, and it's meant for passing on what we call meta weather reports. And that has also a dual use whenever there's an emergency, when all else, for example, telephone, the normal telephone, HF radio still works. So we have this, but it's not shared to everyone. But if anyone knows that this exists, they are allowed to use that. So, but it's meant for transmitting weather reports to the headquarters.
Okay. So if early warning systems were a team sport, identifying which player is not on the field, perhaps for the Pacific, it could be this shortwave radio communication. It might exist. I'm not aware of it, but thanks for that response. We have one question. Okay.
Good morning, and thank you very much for a very informative session. I have a question for GSMA. I noticed that you've chosen other countries for start, but Vanuatu is the most disaster-prone country. I was just wondering why you didn't choose us first. Sorry, I'm just asking that. The other thing is, how does it actually work? Is it a software on a phone? You have to be connected to the internet to be able to get the message? I just want to know how it all works. Also to our Vanuatu panelists about the Google alert. You need connectivity, I understand, to connect to it. Oh, good. So no connectivity, no internet connectivity whatsoever to be able to get the message. That's, I guess, 3 questions.
Thank you. We'll go first to GSMA and then we'll come, Director.
Thank you. So if I answer the second part, then maybe Rachel wants to answer the first one. So in answer to your question about connectivity to receive cell broadcast, as long as the phone is switched on, and as long as it is communicating with the cell tower that is sending the broadcast message, then your device will receive the message. So what that means is if you're a prepaid subscriber and you've got no credit, you will still receive the message. If you're a foreign tourist and you haven't registered for international roaming, you will still receive the message. In fact, even if you don't have a SIM card inside your phone, as long as it's switched on and it's communicating with the cell tower, that device will still receive the message. So that's why cell broadcast is a very powerful tool.
Thank you, Phil.
Rachel, did you want to cover the?
Yes, I'll go for the first question if that's okay. Thank you for that question, and it is very relevant, and I'm glad that you have brought it up. I also see the directors both up there now, the NDMO and VNGD directors as well. But basically, the countries that were chosen for 2025, this was initiated from the countries through the collaboration and partnership that we have with PITA, the Pacific Islands Telecoms Association. And basically what we're trying to do as well with this solution is to work on it with smaller countries at the moment. So it doesn't mean that Vanuatu is forgotten. It doesn't mean that Papua New Guinea is forgotten. It just means that with these larger, more complex countries, a little bit more time needs to be taken in terms of the groundwork that needs to be laid before we can begin to implement. But this is something, and these are the initial conversations that we had with Director Nazak during the IOM workshop that was in February, and we're hoping to take it a few steps further in the coming months as well. So I don't want to put too much pressure on the directors in the front, but please note that we have every intention as well on working with the governments of Vanuatu and the larger countries that we mentioned earlier, PNG and Fiji as well, to see how best we can support their risk reduction efforts through cell broadcast. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. We'll go to the director.
Yeah, thank you. As per your question, in terms of Google Alert, through WMO, the alerting hub is the common alert protocol hub, and there we need to reach a certain number of messages which we send out. When we reach that threshold, then Google picks it up. And as I've told you, as long as the satellite can see you and your phone is on, if there's a message that we put out in terms of a weather warning, you will reach that in your phone. Don't ask me about the technicalities. That's between Google and the platform that we use, the Common Alert Protocol. Yeah. So regardless, as long as your phone is on, I know if you have your phone on without connectivity, your location is still tracked. So as long as you're there, your phone is on inside.
Okay.
So we have reached the threshold. They told us it will be taken on board as we step into the month of April. So we'll see.
Right. I was going to do another poll, but I don't think we've got time for that. Any mobile operator in the room still? Okay. So hopefully, I think having heard some of the presentations and the experiences, obviously there's some discussions to be had on how we can improve. But if I could just ask final question to all the panelists, what would be one bottleneck that you would fix in getting warnings to people faster? What would that be? Just one bottleneck. What would be one bottleneck that you would fix in getting warnings to people faster, based on the experiences and the perspectives that you've shared?
One of the things to address is, although you can have all the technologies, but in terms of disability, how do you address that? A person who is blind probably can hear, but if you have a blind and a deaf, how do you address that technologically? So that's probably you need an assistant next to the person, but in terms of technology, unless there's a innovation somewhere which we don't know, I'm happy to be the pilot if you want to test that.
For disability.
Okay. Tess? Right. I'm more calm now. So with what we are doing with the application, right? It's a government service application. And in the application, it expands on what everybody else is doing, right? So you would have GSMA, you would have what these guys are doing, right? Our platform works on internet, right? So from the standpoint of we're able to take the metrics that you have and create it into a user interface where people could digest different points. And that is what it is we're doing. So we're actually building on what you're actually doing and what GSMA is doing, right? So what we will look at is the other gaps where we could fill in, because you have different user types, right? That have the people who like the smartphones, right? Who would want those type of facilities. Then you would have the people who have normal Me Too, which will just receive SMS. So a question I wanted to ask is, when it have disasters, how strong is the cellular networks? Are they up, or do they go down immediately? There's a question I want to ask.
Mobile service.
Mobile service.
Connectivity.
Pertaining not to calls, but SMS.
I'm not sure if they could answer that, or the mobile operators are better placed to answer it. And they're not in the room at the moment. So
Okay, because what it is, I was listening to the conversation. Mobile is here.
any comment from our colleagues from the mobile operator? Who is in the room? Vodafone? Okay. Are you able to answer that question in terms of cellular connectivity or accessibility?
Well, just calls, but really SMS. It's SMS I want to know about. How strong during a disaster do they go down one time? From your experience.
Sorry, could you ask the question again, please? I didn't quite get that.
So before a natural disaster, during a natural disaster, from your experience, the cell coverage, SMS, putting through SMS, and even calls, are they still up, or do they go down?
For the most part, they stay up. The only time it would go down is if there's an issue with the tower, if there's some damage that's caused by cyclone or earthquake. As we discussed earlier this morning, we've done a lot of work in terms of resiliency and redundancy. So we have, for the most part, even during cyclones, SMS broadcasts still go through for a good part of the disaster as it's happening. Then again, it really comes down to what happens in terms of damage on a particular site, on a particular tower at any given point in time.
Okay, so from that, and I was listening to what it is you were saying. Internet is basically a problem, right? Internet goes down. But if it is, SMS is still available, right? Because we're building a technology in Africa where they don't really have data. So what we started using was SMS to pass information through. So when I was sitting down listening to you talking, I'm like, okay, I could actually use that technology that I have. So it's basically using all the different mediums to get the information out to the citizens, right? Because you have different type of citizens using different mediums, right? Obviously, at the end of the day, the cell broadcast from GSMA, that's going to be the champion. But at the end of the day also, right, it have people who would want to know where I could go for this, where I could go for different things. And if it is running in this direction, is the best decision. When it is, I could go in the next decision. So that is where what we're developing builds on what you are doing, right? Yes.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, well, we'll allow this final question and then we'll wrap up. Grab this mic.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask the final question. My question is with regards to what are the technologies that are available for early warnings for earthquakes, if there are any?
Okay, that's from experience of Vanuatu in particular. Is there any early warning for earthquakes?
Earthquakes are not like weather. You can't predict. But there are technologies, I know in Japan and probably China as well, where the lead time is just probably 10 or 20 seconds. So it's due to with the primary waves and secondary waves, where they have the technology to detect this in advance, and then probably a siren goes off 10 to 20 minutes before the actual motion. Yes, it's seconds. Yes.
So, if I may,
Yeah.
so I'm Mathilde from Prima Limited. One of Nokia's labs has developed an application like CC notes that you can put on submarine cables that will detect the movements of lava underneath like inside Earth, and it is supposed to help notify some earthquakes up to 45 minutes ahead of time. And I'm pleased to say that Prima Limited has been talking with this lab to install that, retrofit that on the interchange cable, and it should be also installed on the new TamTam cable. It is, of course, not 100% of earthquakes, but it can help notify big ones like we had in December 2024.
Yes, the smart cables, right? Yeah, it addresses two things. One is for early warning systems for earthquake and also tsunami. So we have sensors that will be hooked up onto the communication cables, and it should help us in this.
Effectively to our communities, particularly those who are in the remote areas, so that this information reaches them where they are. It's so essential that we need to work together to address the challenges, but also resolve the resilience and connectivity issues. Let me invite you to show our appreciation to all the presenters and the panelists in the usual manner. Thank you very much. And back to our MC.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you to all our distinguished panelists for such interesting conversation on a very important topic. We actually ran out of time, but do we have enough time to talk about these things? There's never enough time. And, you know, this is such an important topic, especially for Vanuatu. I hope that we can continue these conversations over lunch and over the course of the rest of the week. We can continue these conversations and keep trying to find the most appropriate solutions that will respond to the needs of the country. At this point, we're going to break for lunch. We're running 30 minutes behind for lunch. We will break for lunch. This is the last session in Port Vila. Just to invite all our participants that we are having community engagements starting tomorrow from Emoa to Mele, and it's actually open. You can come with us to the community so we can take these conversations to them as well and ensure that the roadshow is achieving what it set out to achieve, reaching communities, impacting lives on the ground. And so we'd like to take this opportunity, because this is the last session in Port Vila, to give an immense thanks to our distinguished sponsors. Okay. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you very much to all our distinguished sponsors. We're thinking about our major sponsor, Prima. We're thinking of our co-sponsor, National Bank of Vanuatu. And of course, all our other sponsors, Vodafone,